if that's true, if he did that, and he's a friend of mine, and I'm not going to ask him now because I don't want to know. But after,
what do you mean you don't want to know?
I guess I do want to know. But
I want to know. Ask for me then.
If that's true, then for 38 years of my career, I've been playing checkers.
Yep, and a lot of coaches
I've never done
coached.
that. I never even. I'll be honest. That's never even crossed my mind.
You're conceding five really important yards at a critical time that almost gets you into field goal range
at the perfect moment.
And I'm just trying to think over the headset. Mark, you know how nuts it is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The sideline is chaos, and they said, "All right, I mean, you have Jeremiah Smith, you have a Mecca, you got, I mean, they're 12 yards away from kicking a game-winning field goal, and we're going to give them 5 more yards." And someone says, "Hey, run the timeout or run the 12-man play." I'm like going, "Wait, what in the?"
Yes.
So they did have a timeout.
Guy
remember,
then.
There was a timeout where they got together and they discussed it, right? So like there was a breath. You know,
That's
it wasn't
crazy.
It wasn't everything just kind of spinning, but that is insanity.
Coach, I played for some sticklers with situations. Sean Payton was a stickler for situations.
Saban and John Harbaugh.
Saban.
Think of who you played for.
Yes, Harbaugh too. Like stickler for situations, man.
There you go. That's Urban Meyer, who is one of the greatest coaches of all time, Godfather, and even he is impressed by the savvy maneuver by Lanning to be willing to take the penalty and have an extra guy on the field to prevent the big play to put the Buckeyes in field goal range.
It's incredible, Chad, and it was a great play, but it's a one and done. I mean, now that the rules have been changed, I give Lanning more credit for getting the rules changed inside of a week than anything else, because the NCAA just doesn't move that fast on anything. But he was able to get a rule change done in about 5 days, which is incredible to me.
The NCAA is worse than any government entity that you could imagine, like going to the DMV, going to the Social Security office, any of those weird bureaucracies that you hate going to deal with because you know it's a mess. The NCAA is the same way. They're worse. And somehow, some way, they got something done in less than a week, Godfather. What did it take, 4 days?
Yeah.
What in the world? I told you, because it happened to Ohio State, and it involved the Big Ten, and it involved people with a lot of power, and the Buckeyes have a lot of that, and they got beat, and they got embarrassed at the last couple of moments of that game on Saturday. That's why it happened so quick. If it happens to Oregon State, if it happens to Utah State or some other bum school that no one cares about, then it's not going to happen. No one's going to blink an eye. But because it involved Ohio State, the NCAA suddenly mustered up enough energy and smarts to get something done and be proactive. I don't disagree that the rules should be changed, but the NCAA all of a sudden having the wherewithal to get something done is mind-blowing to me. Classic.
Yeah, and Chad, how frequently does anybody running any league or any whatever conference or anything, how often do they change rules in the middle of a season?
Never.
It usually it takes a committee in the offseason to study for 30 days and then vote and do all this hearing and let people talk about it. These guys just went wham. I'm sorry, we're changing that rule.
Well, it reminds me of when Sean Payton basically broke down and started crying after the Saints got beat in the NFC title game by the Rams on that situation with the pass interference that wasn't called.
Yeah.
Remember that? He went on some type of crying tour and started whining, and before you know it, the league changed the ruling on that lasted a year. And it's like, come on, man. The whining and the crying. But when you got power and you complain, things get done real quick, even if it involves the ridiculous NCAA, which is just an archaic group of morons. It's unbelievable, but that's what happens. And props to Dan Lanning for being the last person to be able to use that rule to his benefit before they changed it around. That was really, it's going to go down as one of the all-timers, and it'll be talked about for years because it happened on that stage in that game, and it basically thrust Oregon into a position where unless something bizarre takes place, they can't miss the playoff now, Godfather. That's how big that move was in that win.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, it's going to be known as the Lanning rule, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah.
It absolutely should be. Now, I want to read this post that you sent to me. It's from Wolverine Chronicle. You can find them on X at Wolverine Cron. This is what they had to say about Dan Lanning's decision to put the 12th man on the field, and I'll let you decide if you agree, and Dwight and I will share our thoughts. Here is the series in the Oregon-OSU game that everyone is making a big deal about, and I really don't think it was advantageous for Oregon to do this as people think. Here's why. taking the 12-man penalty moved the ball from the 43 to the 38, moving it from a 60-yard field goal to a 55-yard field goal. The average make percentage increases dramatically from 60 to 55. Additionally, moving the ball up 5 yards after a play that only took 4 seconds helps OSU tremendously. It allows for a shorter, easier play selection from 6 seconds remaining to get their kicker into a more comfortable range. There were several ways this could have backfired on Oregon. Ohio State didn't lose this game because of that call. They lost it because they failed to execute. Well, that sounds like a Big Ten person right there. I disagree with that, Godfather, because, one, they didn't just put the 12th man on the field to get 4 seconds off the clock. They put the 12th man on the field because of a leverage disadvantage, because of the bunch receiver set, and they didn't want to get burned by one of those great Ohio State receivers. You put an extra guy on the field, you've got an extra defender, you can prevent the play, and you get to burn the time. And because there's only 6 seconds on the clock, and you put Ohio State in a situation where you got to think and react quickly, it's harder to function and execute in those type of pressure-packed situations. So I disagree with the take. Any type of big type of decision that you make like that can backfire on you. I just think that Oregon, they had the wherewithal and by putting that extra defender on the field gave them an edge to be able to prevent the big play from happening, and it worked.
Yeah, it certainly did work. Yeah, I could see it two ways, and the funny part of it is, Chad, what if by some crazy thing they would have completed a 15-yard pass downfield, the guy got out of bounds, 1 second left on the clock, bring the field goal kicker in, and he makes the field goal. Just answer this question. Would then Dan Lanning say, yeah, we took that too many man penalty on purpose? You what? You gave him 5 yards? I don't know if anybody would I don't know if it's worse to admit you did it on purpose or worse to say, yeah, we really messed up there. We had too many guys on the field after a timeout. I don't know. Both things are crazy. It worked. And that's the bottom line, really. It worked. And you can say whatever you want about the chance they took or whatever. I'm sure that over the months that they've thought about this play, the years they've thought about this play, they played out all the scenarios. They knew what their odds were when they did it, and it worked. So I take nothing away from them for doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, there was a list put out by Brett McMurphy, college football genius from Action Network, and it lists the top 20 paid coaches in big-time college football. Kirby Smart, no surprise, is atop the list, making $13.2 million.
Whew.
And Dabo Swinney, who seems to have a major issue with players being able to earn cash off of name, image, and likeness, he checks in at number 2, 11.1. Steve Sarkisian at Big Time Texas, 10.6. Lincoln Riley, $10 million a year. And then Ryan Day at Ohio State, $10 million a year. Now, you have to go down the list quite a ways. Dan Lanning checks in at number 14 at $8.2 million, which is still a very healthy amount of cash for a guy to make to coach college football. But you made this point to me before the show that Lanning's in a great spot because if he continues to produce the way he has, they'll just continue to offer more and more money after every season to make sure he doesn't get tempted to jump somewhere else. Because if he continues to win games like that, he'll be highly sought after. And, the Ducks just have to continue to take care of him so he doesn't make the decision to jump.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, Chad. They're going to be coming after him in waves, and they're going to have to protect themselves any way they can, and the best way is just keep paying him. And they have the money to do that. They can pay him whatever he wants, really. Don't you think? I mean, it's not a problem.
Of course. Not a problem. All right, when we come back, Jim Harbaugh, well, being Jim Harbaugh, you can't beat that. I mean, this guy's a classic, and we're going to get more and more of this throughout the course of the year, and I'm here for it. That's Dwight. I'm Chad. Live here at Moda Center, getting ready for the Trailblazers and Ratio Farm You got your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Rip City Drive. It's always a better day when Phil Collins makes an appearance. I'm here at Moda Center getting ready for the preseason game tonight. Ratio Farm is in town. Tip-off's coming up at 7, and my man Chris Burkhart will have Blazer Game Day coming up at 5. Dwight is here, and we're going to talk with Ryan Edwards of 850 KOA in Denver. It's time for a little Bo Nix update. I don't know what there is to update after going 0.0 quarterback rating in the first half against the Chargers, but they're going to be in New Orleans to take on the Saints tomorrow night. So he's going to stop by. And Godfather, in that game, Jim Harbaugh, head coach of the Chargers, left the game, and he had a heart issue. What is it he's got? You know more about this than I do.
It's I think it's atrial.
What'd you say?
Atrial flutter, I think. He gets
so they call it AFib, right?
Well, no, AFib is atrial fibrillation, which is a more permanent condition that happens more frequently. The flutter is just something he'll get occasionally, and he feels his heart skipping a little,
Yeah. All right. That's all Greek to me, to be honest with you. I'm just going to – I've got your wife's number. I'll just call her when I need a breakdown on that stuff.
Yeah.
Gosh. No, seriously, though, I know that I'm not smart, but I really realize how dumb I am when I talk to people like your wife. It's like, I can't believe there are human beings out there that are sending rockets to the moon and fixing human beings and stuff like that. It blows my mind. It's like, that's high level. I need to try and get there, Godfather. I got to try and get to that level, and I'm never going to get there.
You're running out of time. It takes time.
True. Well, Jim Harbaugh was asked about his situation today, and I mean, in true Harbaugh fashion, man, this guy's he's better than gold. Take a listen to this.
Yeah, good news. Just talked to the cardiologist before I came in here. Got some test results back. The heart of an athlete is a direct quote from my cardiologist. So that made me feel good. And he said stress test was really good too. I think he used the word incredible. I think he did. That my stamina was incredible, and heart got stronger as it was more stressed. So, and back in rhythm. Hopefully that that sticks. We'll got the monitor on. So good news. I took that as a compliment.
Sure.
He's a classic, man. That guy is a classic.
Yeah. I love
heart of an athlete.
Yeah. Don't you love it when he talks about himself, too? He's really classic when he talks about himself.
Well, and two, what I love about it, it's the facial expressions and the way he looks and pauses and kind of smiles like he wants the reaction. Like, he enjoys all of that. And he was talking about having the heart of an athlete. I'll tell you this. If he were to drop dead at a Charger game, heaven forbid that happens, I can't think of one guy that would want to die more than Harbaugh right in the middle of a football field coaching a game. He's talked about it, man. He was born to be a coach, and he wants to do it for as long as possible because he loves football more than just about anybody. And if he were to die on the football field, he would be in hog heaven, man. It doesn't get any better than that for Jim Harbaugh.
I think the only thing about it is he'd want to be ahead. I don't think he'd want to die behind.
Yeah, that's true. Well, he's Jim Harbaugh, so chances are
he'd be ahead,
you're going to be ahead. Yeah, or just play the Broncos, and I can guarantee you're going to be ahead because they'll come out and put up no offense in the first half. You'll be set. And your quarterback you're going to be facing will have a 0.0 quarterback rating. I still can't believe that. How does a guy put up a 0.0 in the first half when you supposedly have a genius in Sean Payton as your head coach? I just think about it. It makes me mad. I'm going to have heart issues now. It just drives me crazy. What are you guys doing out there? How can you be that piss poor on offense, morons?
I think Sean Payton sometimes forgets that he's a genius, I think. It just slips his mind.
Does. Gosh, it all goes back to that coach worship. It's like, oh, he's a genius. I think we use the term genius a little bit loosely, and we need to tighten up on our words. It happens in sports now where we call this guy the GOAT, this guy's great. We throw around these big terms, but now I'm going to stop and consider it when I hear that type of nonsense now and be like, wait a second, is he really great? Is that guy really great? Is that coach really a genius? I'm going to have to really examine those words now because I think what's happened is that we use it too often now, so labels get dropped on these guys, and then you find out that maybe they're not really a genius. It just drives me crazy. But
I don't think there's many in sports that are qualified to be geniuses, really. If they were geniuses, they'd be, inventing the Tesla or sending rockets to the moon or or inventing the light bulb or something like that. I mean, curing cancer. What are you doing in sports if you're a genius? Get out of here.
Well, but, Godfather, you have come across coaches. How many have you come across that you can consider a true genius, that you've had a chance to spend time around? Let me think here. Who are some good ones that you've had interaction with? What about Dr. Jack? I mean, as a doctor, was Dr. Jack Ramsey a basketball genius?
He was a PhD. I would say he was offensively, maybe not defensively. That's kind of what caught up with him in his later years, the defensive side of things.
But an offensive genius.
I would say so, like Bill Walsh was. That's another guy that was making me dizzy.
Yeah, he was really sharp. What about Rick Adelman?
I think smarter than Jack, really. Offensively, ahead of Jack. He was incredible offensively and probably better defensively. I believe Rick Adelman was the best coach the Blazers ever had. I think he was better than Jack. Jack was blessed that 1 year with, unbelievable talent and could only keep him healthy. And it wasn't his fault, but they only stayed healthy that 1 year.
Don't you think Belichick is probably genius level in his operation, the way he understands things and the way he can consume information?
Yeah, I'm sure, Chad, not only with what he's done on the football field, but I think the way he organized and ran his operation. That's a big part of the head coach thing. He seemed to have the whole football side of things locked down pretty well. They had a pretty good run of draft picks and everything. They did some good work. And even in terms of signing guys, letting guys go, for the most part, they made mistakes like everybody. Boy, for the most part, he really knew how to run an organization.
What about Bob Knight?
Not a genius emotionally, but probably intellectually, I would say. But, very smart. And I think Krzyzewski probably might have qualified in that regard, too.
Well, I think what happens with coaches, a lot of them may not be geniuses when it comes to like the X's and O's and the understanding of the game, but that's where these coaches who I think are emotional geniuses or have an understanding and a connection with people, and they know how to communicate to be able to motivate and get guys to play and work above their abilities. You know what I'm saying? Like there are certain motivators, guys who could be brought in to motivate a company and work in different fields. Like I look at who's the meathead that coaches for Detroit? Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
Okay. Now he carries himself. He carries himself like a meathead, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of has that persona. We're going to bite their ankles and all the crazy stuff. But I think he could have some emotional intelligence to where he can connect with his players and get them to go above and beyond and play hard. You know what I'm saying? Like he's got a way with people and players that would lead me to believe that he could have some genius level stuff when it comes to that emotional connection, the communication, the motivation. You know what I'm saying there?
I do, Chad. And I'll go one better with Campbell. I think a lot of that kind of hayseed mentality he throws out there is a smokescreen. I think he's one of those guys that figured out, hey, if they think I'm a dumb guy, they're gonna underestimate me. And I think the reality of him is he's a pretty smart guy. Yeah, they look like they're well coached, and he makes pretty good decisions for the most part. As he gets comfortable with being a head coach, I think he gets better in that regard. But you know what? He's a smart guy, I bet.
All right, the other guy, more contemporary, that comes to mind, Steve Kerr. And the reason why I bring up Steve Kerr's name is that he obviously knows how to communicate and work with some strong personalities. But also, when he was here in Portland, I'll never forget John Lund and Kenny Vance would tell me that he would come on and do a weekly hit on the radio. And what they were really blown away by is that he had an intuition and knew every single player on the roster. He had connected to all of his teammates, and he could tell you what they were about, their strengths, their weaknesses. He knew everything about everything in regards to who his teammates were on the team. And that to me, that's like sports genius right there, where you have an understanding of your teammates and the team and the culture and how to communicate with those guys on a different level than almost everyone else. And now we're seeing this play out as he became a head coach with the Warriors, and the way he's been able to work with strong personalities like Steph Curry, like Klay Thompson, like Draymond Green, and have great success there. He's a next level thinker. I have a lot of respect for Steve Kerr, even though Warrior fans now like to complain about everything because they're not winning championships every year. But I think Steve Kerr is really smart.
Yeah,
super sharp.
Yeah, I missed him first go around, but I should have mentioned him. Absolutely. And he comes by it honestly. That's a smart family he comes from. And I'm sure that he was look, he's a guy that probably never got less than an A in his life. That would be the expectation, I think, of his father and mother. So, yeah, no disputing Steve Kerr.
All right, and speaking of Steve Kerr, take a listen to this. This is Kerr discussing the NBA, talking about the in-season tournament, also talking about the number of games and how less practice time for teams now, based on the way the schedule is put out, is hurting the overall quality of the game. Here's Warriors head coach Steve Kerr.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest downside is the extra game, the extra travel. It seemed to hurt both the Lakers and the Pacers last year. I don't know if that can be addressed. I do like the idea of it. I think the league has been very progressive the last few years with the play-in tournament and the in-season. So I'm all for experimentation. I'm also for a 75-game season, but they're never going to do that. But what I worry about is the way we play our season now. We basically have a game every other day. And so while it's good that you're not having the players do too many back-to-backs, you hardly get any practice time. And I think the quality of play suffers a little bit if we don't have more practice time. Ironically, we used to get more practice time when we'd play like 4 and 5 nights, and then we'd have 5 days without a game. We'd get 3 really good practices in. Now every day is a recovery day, and you have a game the following day. So you add the in-season tournament, the extra game for the 2 teams that go there, the travel for the final 4 teams. It's a lot. I like what the league has done, but nobody's going to listen to me when I suggest the shorter season, or anybody else for that matter. But it is what it is.
There's Steve Kerr. He's right. The NBA is not going to shorten the season. They need the money.
That's right. Well, they don't need it, but they want it. They got plenty right now, but they want more. Just like everyone does. I do too. Everybody does. But Chad, the one thing I won't dispute, the caliber of play, the way the game is played now, isn't as good as it has been in the past. Now, that's not saying players aren't terrific. They are, but the team part of the game, the way teams used to be tied together on a string offensively and defensively, and the way they used to play together, the systems they ran, all of that stuff is not as good as it used to be because of practice time and the lack of that. And they don't practice now. Playing every other day, he's right. You need the recovery day in between. You need 2 or 3 days in between games. Then you can get a recovery day and practice a couple of days.
Who was the smartest baseball coach you've been around? Like, who's one guy where you're like, okay, that guy's a baseball genius? Who is it?
Oh, boy. You really I'll tell you what, Piniella was a really smart baseball guy. His overall IQ was not the best because, like so many coaches, managers, etc., he was one-dimensional. All he ever thought about was baseball. He knew all sorts of tricks. He knew everything about the game, especially hitting. He was, I think, a brilliant manager, knew how to handle players, was really good with that, just understood every facet of the game. Lou was terrific. My buddy, Tom Troublehorn, managed the Cubs and the Brewers. His nickname was the Professor, and his players respected his knowledge of the game. Very smart.
That's a great nickname.
Yeah.
That's a great nickname.
It is.
Yeah. I guess what I'm trying to say is that
they're never going to call me the Professor. I can tell you that, Chad.
No, you've already got a name, the Godfather. All right.
I'd rather have.
You don't need a new
Professor.
nickname.
It's a great nickname.
I guess my overall point is, and I've learned this through life, you probably have too, is that genius, it comes in many different forms. Meaning,
sure.
Yeah, I've known geniuses in the classroom, guys and ladies who were very exceptional with their academics, book smart, where they knew a lot of things and maybe people that were good at math or different equations. So I've seen that. But I've also seen different business owners and people who function well in one particular area where I'm like, wow, that guy's or that lady's a high-level thinker. I've seen it in sport. You see it across the board. Like some people you meet and you don't think much about it. Then all of a sudden you get a chance to see them in their realm doing what they do, and you're like, man, that guy is high-level genius at what they do. So I see it all the time. It just comes in many different forms, Godfather.
Yeah, it sure does. That's a great point, Chad. And we often overlook those other facets of the genius trait. We don't take those things into consideration. But yeah, there are a lot of people who have that one avenue that they walk down that nobody's smarter than them. I mean, they're really smart, but maybe not overall,
Yeah. Well, I've seen, and you probably have too, there's times where I'll meet a mother and they have, multiple children, and just to see the way that they function as a mom with their kids with total chaos, I'm like, how can they be so calm and so cool with the chaos and being able to make good decisions and be on top of everything? Like that impresses me because I'm like, man, that's amazing. There's some, genius in terms of how some people are able to operate with children too. I like all that.
Yeah, but see, people don't know it. They don't realize it because we're just a couple of dum-dums on the radio. You are a radio genius. You know every facet of this business. You know what to do, when to do it, when to pull a plug, when to get out, when to stop, when to start. I mean, everybody in the business, who's good, who isn't, all the names, and you have that recall memory of sports where you could just reach into your mental file cabinet and pull out a game from 20 years ago. And it's just incredible to me.
But the problem is the file cabinet, as I've aged, it's not as accurate as it used to be. No. I'm starting to look back on things and watch games, and I think it went one way, and I'll realize that I missed certain details because it's getting a little foggy in there.
What I've noticed as you get older, what happens is the file cabinet gets full, and there's no more room. So you have to pull something out. In other words, forget it, to put something new in there. And I've gone through that where it's like, wait a minute, I used to know all about that game, and now I can't remember anything about it. Well, it's because I pulled that file out of there and replaced it with some game that happened 2 years ago, It's just, it gets full. I think your brain does get full in one particular area, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, and we've seen it with players, too. Like, it may not be the best player, but haven't you seen players in baseball, basketball, or football where they just think and look at the game and understand it on a different level than some of their teammates? Like certain guys, they're like like pitchers, wouldn't you consider Greg Maddux to be a pitching genius in terms of his understanding of how to set up batters? In fact, I saw that clip. Who was the guy he set up in the regular season because he knew he'd face him in the postseason? Who was that? He threw a certain pitch and gave up a home run on purpose because he knew that it would come back in the playoffs, and he got the guy thinking one thing, and he threw him a different pitch, and it killed him. Yeah. He struck him out.
Yeah, I think it might.
That's high level.
Might have been Bregman with the Astros, or it was somebody with the Astros.
Yeah, I think it was Bregman. Yeah, I think he gave up a home run on purpose to set him up.
He gave him a home run, basically, by throwing the pitch that Maddux knew he wanted. He threw it to him. He gave it to him. It's like, no. 3 months later, he didn't give it to him and struck him out. It's just, some guys are thinking on way different levels. They're playing.
And he reminded.
Go ahead.
He reminded his catcher after he struck him out. He said, hey, do you remember that pitch we gave up to him? And the catcher had already forgotten, but Maddux didn't.
That was what was funny. Eddie Perez, who was his personal catcher, he didn't remember it, but, of course, Maddux did, and that's where his mind was. He's still, he's one of a kind. There really hasn't been anybody before or since exactly like him, the way he set hitters up.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. Bo Nix update coming up at 4:20 with Ryan Edwards of 850 KOA. Chris Burkhart will have Blazer Game Day coming up at 5 here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, the man who just connected on his first hole-in-one a couple of weeks ago, Scotty Bethune, has chimed in. He says, Chad, are they sure his heart flutter wasn't a result of his love for Justin Herbert? He, of course, is referring to Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, good news. Just talked to the cardiologist before I came in here. Got some test results back. The heart of an athlete is a direct quote from my cardiologist. So that made me feel good. And he said stress test was really good too. I think he used the word incredible. I think he did. That my stamina was incredible, and heart got stronger as it was more stressed. So, and back in rhythm. Hopefully that that sticks. We'll got the monitor on. So good news. I took that as a compliment. Blue Twisted Steel.
So good. He reminds me of my Uncle Gordon, and I know that this is probably the case at home. My guess is his wife ignores half the stuff he says when he starts talking a bunch of nonsense like that. Family members probably roll their eyes when he goes on one of his tangents, Godfather. There's no one like that guy.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, man. Yeah. He comes to the family reunion, and everybody goes the other direction, probably.
They're like, uh-oh, here comes Harbaugh. Get the heck out of Dodge.
Get out of here.
All right, I want to bring this up because I find it interesting. Rachel Nichols put out a post with some pictures, and she says, such a treat to host the at Hoop Hall's Superfan inductions honoring Spike Lee, Billy Crystal, Jack Nicholson, and Alan Horowitz. I love the way Basketball Hall of Fame is so reflective of all the special aspects of the game. The NBA just wouldn't be the NBA without these. All right, so I guess this is the first year where the Hall of Fame is having a special induction to honor some of the super fans. And I got to be honest with you, Godfather, I don't really care about Billy Crystal or Spike Lee or Jack Nicholson. I don't doubt that those people love basketball. But what about this idea? Because I do think this would be pretty cool. But what about the Trailblazers and every other team in the NBA? Every year, they each nominate one of their season ticket holders or someone that they would consider to be a super fan, and then those people get inducted into a special wing of the Hall of Fame back in Springfield. And if you go and visit it, there's like a wall with the name of that super fan where you get honored and you get a Hall of Fame ring. Like, I think that would be a special way to do it. We all know the celebrities, but what about the real people that are paying their hard-earned dollars to go to the arena to watch their team game in and game out, and they've been doing it for 10, 20, 30, 40 years? I think that'd be awesome, don't you?
I do, Chad. I think it's a great idea. It really is. And I think it's almost insulting to those kind of fans to honor celebrities in their front row seats that they may or may not have paid for as super fans. When some of these fans grew up with their teams, live and die with their teams, and pay, a good portion of their money to watch their teams, and they're just, they don't count as super fans. You got to be a big shot actor or something. I just didn't like that they would honor them and not real fans. There are real super fans out there. Let's honor them.
Exactly. And you've grown up with them. I've been out here for a long time. I know so many different people who show up to Moda Center for every single game, or they watch every single game, and they live and die by their team. Regardless of the performance, regardless of the season, they're always there to support and spend their money. And truly, I think the fans, they don't get the respect they deserve ultimately because they're the ones who get hit with the higher ticket prices. They're the ones that are asked to do this, to do that, and they continue to show up, and they do it because they love their basketball team. And I think that would be an awesome way to do it. And every team would have a chance to participate because it's not just here in Portland, but every team around the country has got super fans that should be honored. I think it's a great idea. Now, I would make a strong argument that Billy Crystal might be the real deal, because if you're willing to show up at Clipper games, and he's been doing it for years, and they're one of the worst franchises in the history of sport, and they basically have sucked most of my life, like, credit to Billy Crystal for showing up. Like, the Clippers, they probably appreciated the fact that he would show up to games because then at least they had one guy they could show, like, hey, he cares about the Clippers, because no one else did.
Yeah, I suppose you're right.
But why not do that? They should do it for all sports, don't you think?
Absolutely. If you can't honor your real fans, who should you honor? I mean, they're helping pay the bills. It's crazy.
I mean, I should be honored by the Broncos for being a super fan. I've put up with a lot over the years. I've experienced greatness. I've experienced some down times. I've experienced a decade worth of poor quarterback play. I suffered through Josh McDaniels. A lot of ups and downs throughout the years, but yet here I am ready to sign me up for another Sunday, man. Put me in, coach. I'm ready for you. I'll do whatever it takes. I mean, think about how many bad baseball games you've watched the Braves play over the years, and yet you're there watching every game, you know?
I pay a lot of money to go back there almost every summer to watch a few games in Atlanta or on the road somewhere. Crazy.
All right. Real quick take on tonight's game. Ratio Farm Ulm is in town. They've got a couple of lottery players, Noah Ensegay and Ben Saroff. Is there anything you're looking for in this game? Like, what can we take away? The good news is the majority of Trailblazers are going to be on the floor tonight, which is nice, and I think Coach Billups wants to give his starters some runs, so that might be nice to watch. But what can you take from an exhibition, Godfather?
Not much, Chad. Not much, especially when it's not an NBA team. Normally these teams come in and they just can't stay with an NBA team. And so I think you'll see a lot of the bench guys get run. Let's see who makes shots, who doesn't. Let's see who handles the situation best in terms of being the better team and taking advantage of situations that they're in. I want to see, Scoot Henderson, again, run the show intelligently, make sure people get their shots, not fall in love with getting his own too much, just continue to spread the ball around, see what happens. I'd like to see him run a little bit. This would be a good start on increasing the pace, I would think.
Yeah, get the pace up, get some of your athletes out there and run. And I'm looking forward to seeing Klingon play tonight. And I'm really going to watch a lot of Tamani Kamara because he has played good basketball so far through the first two games. And Godfather, he's one of those X factors on the roster where if he can start to knock down threes and if he were to become like a 38, 39% three-point shooter, he could be a lethal weapon because of his defensive prowess, man. I'd love to see him develop on the offensive end to where he could become a knockdown three-point shooter.
Yeah, 3-and-D is what it's all about nowadays.
I can't judge a left-handed shooter, though. Every time they shoot, it looks weird to me, so I can't tell if it's a good shot or not.
Yeah.
There's only one lefty guy that I've seen in the NBA that didn't look awkward, and that was Chris Mullin. But everyone else, whether it's Manu Ginobili or any other lefty that comes to mind, they all look bizarre to me. It's weird.
Hey,
Lamar Odom.
Can I give you a breaking news story off the internet right now? And I don't know if it's real or not. You see this thing? But I know you're going to like the story. It's breaking. Tom Brady's first move as a Las Vegas Raiders owner is to gauge Bill Belichick's interest in becoming the team's head coach. Two sources have told the Kirk Minns Show, whatever that is.
Yeah, whoever that is.
Yeah. That'd be funny, though, if Belichick ended up working for Brady.
Well, it's possible.
Yeah.
The one team he's not going to work for is the Jets because he hates Woody Johnson.
Yeah. I would think Dallas would be in the picture a little bit.
Yeah, but who would you rather work for, Jerry Jones, or would you rather go to the Raiders where Mark Davis will give you total control of everything?
Yeah. Yeah, and you'll never have that with old Jerry, that's for sure.
And my guess would be Belichick would want personnel control, which most owners wouldn't want to give him, but Mark Davis would probably give him full control.
Oh, he'd give him the keys to the city. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this media tour that he's been doing is successful so far, so I think he's on track to get another job.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of coaches, we're going to hear from Mike Tomlin, head coach of the Steelers, on the decision-making to put Russ out there and get his first start of the year against the Jets. That's coming up next. And then a Bo Nix update at 4:20. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, it's now 4 o'clock, Chad here. Trailblazers in action tonight. Ratio Farm Ulm is in town. Tip from Moda at 7. Chris Burkhardt has Blazers game day at 5. Here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. 2 guys to watch tonight from Ratio Farm are Ben Saraf and Noah Insige. Both will be lottery picks in the draft. After Oregon used a 12th man on the field successfully against Ohio State by taking time off the clock, the NCAA has changed the rule. Moving forward, the offensive team will have the option to reset the clock back to the time that was on it at the snap with the 5-yard penalty inside of 2 minutes of each half. In addition to being named the WNBA Rookie of the Year, Caitlin Clark becomes the first rookie since Candace Parker back in 2008 to be named to the All-WNBA First Team. At 5:08 on FS1 Game 3, NLCS, Dodgers and Mets from New York, Severino and Walker Buehler, your pitching matchup. That series is all tied up at 1. Ryan Edwards from Denver with the Bo Nix update coming up at 4:20. We'll get to Mike Tomlin in just a moment. Ryan Edwards from 850 KOA in Denver coming up at 4:20. But the big story today has just been the overall praise of Dan Lanning and the fact that the NCAA took about 4 days to get something done, which probably set a record for that body, that useless body of nothingness, able to get something done, which is amazing. But take a listen to this, Godfather. Urban Meyer talking about Dan Lanning's late-game coaching where he decided to put a 12th man on the field, knowing he would get a 5-yard penalty so that they could protect from a big play to give the Buckeyes field goal range and also take time off the clock. I love it because this is a smart football coach, one of the best, giving praise to Dan Lanning for his smarts in that moment, in that situation.
If that's true, if he did that, and he's a friend of mine, and I'm not going to ask him now because I don't want to know. But after,
what do you mean you don't want to know?
I guess I do want to know. But
I want to know. Ask for me then.
If that's true, then for 38 years of my career, I've been playing checkers.
Yep, and a lot of coaches
I've never
have
done that. I never even. I'll be honest. That's never even crossed my mind.
You're conceding 5 really important yards at a critical time that almost gets you into field goal range
at the perfect moment.
And I'm just trying to think over the headset. Mark, you know how nuts it is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The sideline is chaos, and they said, "All right, I mean, you have Jeremiah Smith, you have a Mecca, you got, I mean." They're 12 yards away from kicking a game-winning field goal, and we're going to give them 5 more yards. And someone says, "Hey, run the timeout or run the 12-man play." I'm like going, "Wait, what in the?"
Yes.
So they did have a timeout.
Guy,
remember, there was a timeout where they got together and they discussed it, right? So like there was a breath. You know,
That's
it
crazy.
wasn't everything just kind of spinning, but. That is insanity.
Coach, I played for some sticklers with situations. Sean Payton was a stickler for situations.
Saban and John Harbaugh.
Saban.
Think of who you played for.
Yes, Harbaugh too. Like stickler for situations, man.
That's pretty good. I was surprised to hear Urban Meyer, who has already forgotten more about football I'll ever know. I'm just surprised he hadn't thought about that or used that type of penalty in that type of situation before.
I guess it's pretty obvious it wasn't used too often, or the rule would have gotten changed quite a while ago, even though this was quicker because it was against Ohio State. You don't pull any tricks on them without them trying to get a rule change, probably.
Well, don't you believe that's why it got changed so quick, because of the stage and the team it happened against?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the fact so many people watched the game, knew the situation, and it was even one of those calls where you got too many men on the field after a timeout. People were wondering that too. And then you find out it was intentional. It explains a lot.
All right. Well, because if this happens, let's say that Oregon State, if they would have gotten burned by Nevada on Saturday with the same type of play and situation, does anyone care? Or does the NCAA make a rule change?
Probably not.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's all I'm trying to say. It's just like, come on, man.
Yeah.
All right, one thing that's cool, Godfather, the Trailblazers are giving away, and you should probably sign up for this right now because the one you've got is not getting the job done. They're giving away a free digital antenna so that you can watch the Trailblazer games on K2 at home. And the quality, like I mentioned, with these new digital antennas in terms of the amount of channels you get for free and the quality of the picture is there, and they're giving it away. And you just go to the website to be able to do a sign-up to get one sent to you. But I think that's genius, man. Give out free antennas so that people can have easy access to your games, and it will get shipped straight to your crib.
Yeah, the one thing I would say to people is you want to get your name on that list quick because there are a limited number of these, and I have this feeling that people are going to turn their TV on opening night to watch that game, and it's going to be on. If it's going to be on Channel 2, they're fine. A lot of people think all the games are going to be on Channel 2. Most of them, I believe, are going to be on Channel 2.2, which you really can't get without that digital antenna. Although I guess, does Comcast Cable, do they have, maybe somebody knows, do they have that channel on their cable guide? Do you know?
I don't. I know that YouTube TV has Charge. The name of the station is Charge.
Right, yeah.
And by the way, it's a great station because they show some great old school television programming. So when you're not watching the Blazers, you can watch some old school shows like Hunter. Just saying, check it out. It's pretty dope. But anyways, go there right now. You can go to the website. You can sign up, and they'll ship one out to you, man. This is a good idea. Get the antennas out as quickly as possible, but jump on that.
Yeah.
And the name of that 2.2 is Charge. See, Godfather, you need to sign up for one, too, because the one you got's not getting the job done.
It is.
Either that or
No,
do you want me to come out and jump on your roof and put the rabbit ears up there or the antenna up on your roof? Because
You can't put rabbit ears up
you're
on the
only
roof.
getting a fraction. You're only getting a fraction of the channels that are available to you. And you act like it's okay, but I'm telling you, it's not, because if you had all the channels, you'd be like, I can't believe you get all these for free.
Well,
I'm trying to take care of you, Godfather.
I know
Gosh.
you're Chad, but I'm just telling you, I got more channels than I can watch with DirecTV. I'm getting the Blazers. I got 2.2 Charge. That's the one I wanted, so I'm satisfied.
All right. Let's take a listen to Mike Tomlin. I love Mike Tomlin. I think he's a great coach, and they're going to make the shift from Justin Fields to Russell Wilson in their next game. And Fields has had a decent year, 10 touchdowns and 1 pick. He's done everything that they've asked of him, but here he is explaining why he's going to make the change to Russell Wilson. Take a listen to Mike Tomlin.
Justin has been really good, and we've been really good at times, but not to be confused with great. Man, this is a competitive league, man. We're trying to position ourselves to be that team. And we got a player with talent who hadn't had an opportunity to play, so we're going to potentially explore those things. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what Justin has done or has not done. Justin has been an asset to us, man. Last week, for example, man, his ability to utilize his legs by design and by ad-lib was a significant component of that game. He rushed for 50-plus yards and 2 touchdowns in game. And so we're appreciative of that. We're appreciative of how he's taking care of the ball. But we're just looking at all the people at our disposal the same way that we do at any position. We acquired, Terrell Edmonds a number of weeks back, who we have a history with. And as soon as we got him up to speed and got comfortable, we started considering ways to utilize his talents. That's what you do in this thing. You better have your foot on the gas at all times. You better look to divide the labor up in the most appropriate way based on who's available to you and healthy. And that's just simply what we're going to do. Justin is.
All right, there you go. There's Mike Tomlin. This is, I think, a good decision. The reason why is that Justin Fields has not done anything to deserve being benched. He's done everything they've asked, Godfather, but Mike Tomlin knows that a couple of things here. One, they're not committed long-term right now to either quarterback, and he knows that he's going to need more production in the passing game if they're going to make some noise as the season continues.
Yeah.
So why not get Russell Wilson out there on the field now that he's healthy to see if he can provide the necessary boost? If not, and let's say that he's just completely washed and he can't be that guy for you, they can go back to Fields, but you've got to know what you've got in Russ because you're trying to plan for the future, and you do know that what you're getting in the passing game with Fields is not enough to be able to be a real threat in the competitive AFC. So get Russ out there and see what he can do, and then they have more information to work with moving forward. So I like this move from Tomlin, but more importantly, I love the honesty in his answer in dealing with the subject. And my guess is he probably communicated with Fields and Russ in the same fashion to where they both know what to expect. And when you're a coach that's honest and the players know exactly what the deal is, they're going to play hard for you and they can understand in those type of circumstances.
Yeah,
it's good.
You can only do something like this if you're a real secure coach, have a reputation, have done things well in the past. Ownership has, they're behind him 100% in whatever he wants to do because it's a smart move by him. I think he's looking at Fields and saying, he's done fine for us, but it's not going to be good enough as we try to close in on a playoff berth or maybe even win a couple playoff games. Our passing attack's just not good enough. We can't survive that. So it's like we got Russ here. Let's see what he can do, see if he throws the ball well. He has in his past been a good thrower of the football, a good deep ball thrower. Let's see what we got here. And I think that's a really smart play. And a lot of guys would not be secure enough to take out a guy like Fields, who has actually given some success on the field for them. He's done okay. He's not been great at throwing the ball, but, he can run, and a lot of people think that's great for the Steelers, who don't want to throw the ball much anyway. But anyway, Tomlin is one of the great coaches. He's a Hall of Fame coach, no doubt.
All right. It's going to be a beautiful night. Sunday Night Football this week, Godfather, NBC. Jets at the Steelers, 5:20 kickoff. You're going to have Aaron Rodgers against Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
And, of course, the Jets are their own sort of desperation and craziness right now. But that's going to be must-see just because of the drama. What's Russ got? What's Aaron Rodgers got? Will the Jets find a way to blow another game? I have to see that football game. That's awesome.
And, Adams is going to play. I don't think there's any question about that. Does he go to him? How many times? Can they make a connection this quickly again? Well, most people think they can, so we'll see.
How about the Chiefs at the 49ers on Sunday afternoon? Is that good?
Oh, I love that game. Love that game. Two of my favorite teams to watch, really.
And if the 49ers win, there'll be a lot of hot takes coming out on that. The great thing about the Chiefs right now, win, lose, or draw in that football game, they're nowhere where they want to be yet. They're still a work in progress. They don't have to worry about anything, man. Like, the Chiefs are in cruise control. Just continue to work on the process, and we'll continue to get better, and we'll be where we want to be. But that's a big-time football game there in a Super Bowl rematch at Levi's Stadium. Like, that is a must-see football game. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Simply awesome. And the Commanders host the Panthers, and if Washington wins, and I certainly expect them to because the Panthers are all sorts of garbage, they'll be 5-2 with Jaden Daniels at quarterback. And, by the way, what I don't understand is, like, the Panthers, Godfather, like, they're 1-5, and they're not going anywhere, and yet they're putting Andy Dalton out there on the field. Why not go back to the young quarterback to at least see what you got? What are they doing? What are we doing here?
Totally agree, Chad. They're chasing wins now when there's really no reason to do it. You might just as well go ahead and tank the season. You're on your way to that. You probably will end up losing all these games anyway, or at least most of them.
All right, Broncos and Saints tomorrow. Field goal game. It's going to be terrible. Patriots is the Jags. A battle of the 1-5 teams. Awful. Seahawks are in Atlanta to take on the Falcons. That's an underrated great game. The Bengals are in Cleveland to take on the Browns. Titans and Bills. Texans and Packers from Green Bay is going to be delicious. Dolphins and Colts, hideous. Lions at the Vikings. Awesome game at 10 a.m. You've got two barn burners. 10 a.m. Lions at Vikes. An afternoon game, Chiefs at 49ers. Love both those games. And then Sunday night, Jets and Steelers. Like, this is one of those great NFL weekends with some awesome games. Hopefully it plays out that way. We'll get a Bo Nix update next. We'll head to Denver and talk with Ryan Edwards from 850 KOA here on the Rip City Drive.
The Rip City Drive presents the Bo Nix Update.
Play fake. Nix rolls to his right. Run it, Bo, to the 5, to the goal line. Touchdown, Denver.
Here on 620 Rip City Radio.
All right, Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad, and as always, a Bo Nix update. So we head to Denver right now and bring in the one and only Ryan Edwards from 850 KOA. Ryan, before we get to the Broncos, a couple of big things happen around the league I want to get your take on that Dwight and I are curious about. First off, the Jets went out to acquire Devontae Adams from the Raiders for a conditional third-round pick. What do you think about the move?
I mean, I like it. Certainly, for my fantasy team, I really like it. But I say that I mean, it's a good. You're right. It's a good fit. I mean, we know that, right? I mean, you know what they're going to, how they're going to use him. You know, he'll be able to slot in almost immediately because the scheme is what Aaron Rodgers is very used to out there in Green Bay. So it makes a lot of sense. He's obviously, things have been done there with the Raiders, whatever they're going to do for the remainder of the year. That relationship is fractured, beyond fractured, and suddenly his hamstring is healthy. So I think that you just have to kind of look at it and contextualize it and say, you know what, for all parties involved, this was the right deal. What it does for the Jets as far as for the rest of the season, we'll see. But I do ultimately like the move really for both sides.
Do you think the Jets are a playoff team? You know, I was looking at the standings, very competitive AFC, and I just don't know if 9 wins is going to get a team in this year.
I don't think it does, honestly. They're in an interesting spot, right? Because they really are vying for the top of the AFC East with the Buffalo Bills. I don't think many people have expectations for the Dolphins or Patriots at this point. And so they got one more game to play later on in the season at Buffalo. But if they're clicking on all cylinders, and they do have a really good defense, they could absolutely kind of make a bit of a run here. The AFC is so weird, right? I mean, we came into the year thinking about, hey, this is easily the strongest conference. And in a lot of ways it still is. But some of these teams that we thought were going to be good are just really not, right? I mean, you're looking at Jacksonville as a good example, right? They're just off to a horrific start. Already thinking about whether they're going to be a fire sale. The Cincinnati Bengals, yeah, they got a win over the Giants the other night, but my God, they are not the same. The Kansas City Chiefs are undefeated, but even they seem like they're sleepwalking a little bit. I think they just realize, hey, we can sort of save ourselves for the postseason. There's been some weird moments of the Baltimore Ravens who seem like they've righted the ship, but the same thing can be said about the Buffalo Bills. I'm just saying the powerhouse teams, they're winning, but they're not winning in a way that you'd say, hey, they don't have flaws. And so that's where I think that the door opens up for some of these other teams to sort of sneak in, and we'll kind of see where it goes.
Okay, what kind of impact do you think Amari Cooper is going to have on the Bills?
It's going to be fascinating, right? I mean, I do think that if nothing else, Amari Cooper is going to open up some of the things for the other guys on the team. I mean, Khalil Shakir is a big deal to them. That being out versus the Texans, I really think that impacted a lot of the ways they move the ball. He's been kind of the safety blanket guy. I think this helps out Dalton Kincaid. I think this is going to help out their running game. The fact is he's still a legit wide receiver one. And it'll be fascinating to see how quickly he can get on the same page with Josh Allen. He leads the league in drops. He's been a problematic receiver in the league because of drops in the past. So those are things that I want to continue to see, like, hey, is that just going to be a trend for him? Is that something that they're going to say, hey, if he's going to continue to drop the ball, we're going to be having him out there running dummy routes so it opens things up for the other guys? But the fact is you make this trade with the anticipation that you're keeping pace with the Jets, who made the trade earlier in the week, right? I mean, early in the day. So that's a lot of it is a response to the Jets simultaneously saying, hey, what we have right now is probably good enough for the regular season, but we're going to need just a little bit more when we get to the postseason.
We're talking with Ryan Edwards, 850 KOA. Last night, 22 accepted penalties. I think there were 26 total, 4 that were passed on. Obviously, that's a lot of penalties. What is the solution to that? And that's like trying to solve the world's problems, but what can they do? It's horrible.
Yeah, it was borderline unwatchable, right? I mean, I think the entire NFL community, we don't always agree on things, but we agree.
No question.
We agree on that. It became a point where you just sort of expected it, right? I mean, after every play, you're like, all right, where's the flag? And we sometimes joke, well, you could call holding on every play. Well, they literally took that to that level, right? I mean, the refs were like, guess what? We're going to try that. We're going to see if we can call holding. I mean, but it was a mixture, right? I mean, it was also the roughing the passer calls. Like those 2 roughing the passer calls were just so bizarre. And I don't understand the logic behind it. And I don't know, there were so many things about it that made it such a difficult product. But the NFL does this, right, where they have this mindset where hey, people are still talking about it, even if it's in a negative way, then we're still dominating the news cycle. And they ultimately don't really care. We care because we want to see good football. We want to see high-level football, especially in primetime situations. But the NFL, you go to Roger Goodell and he said, hey, you're still talking about it, so what's the big deal? I don't know what the response is going to be because this isn't the first primetime game this year that we've seen that. Remember the very first one with the Chiefs and the Ravens? It was a flag fest, and we were just like, golly, really? This is the opening game of the season, and it's going to be discussed about Jawan Taylor not lining up where he should be, or more so the Ravens' offensive line not lining up. And it's not a great look, but at the same time, I don't think the NFL cares all that much.
Hey, Ryan, do you think Sean Payton's being a little too conservative? Should they open it up a little bit? I don't know. It's just a guy from Portland watching these games, but I just don't see him doing a lot.
Yeah, there's some really interesting discussions, debates happening here in Denver about what Sean Payton and the Broncos offense is doing. I mean, the fact is you have 22 passing yards in the first half at home against the Chargers. Chargers are a good team, but not that good. You shouldn't be that limited. Now, to be fair, the Broncos had 25 fewer snaps on offense. The Chargers had a 20-play drive in there. So the offensive opportunities really weren't there. But even then, there should have been more to the offense. It seems like a bit of a boom-bust kind of design right now. It's like the basic stuff that they're trying to do, they're really not very good at, so they almost kind of abandon it, and then they just start chucking it deep. And you're like, okay, well, hey, it's 3rd and 3. You just need 3 yards. Let's go ahead and throw a go ball down the left sideline and see if that works. Oh, now we got a punt. Oh, well, I guess that didn't work out. But at the same time, if they were only throwing short of the sticks and a lot of what Bo Nix's offense was there at Oregon and what we've seen at times here in Denver, well, then you're really not challenging defenses deep, and then they're playing up in the box, and you're having a tough time running the ball too. So there's just a lot of sort of dysfunction with the way that they're approaching this. And honestly, I don't know if there's a quick answer to that question. There should be, right? You think, hey, Sean Payton's called enough offense. There should be an answer there. Bo Nix has played enough quarterback at the college level. There should be an answer there. But for whatever reason, it's not quite gelling just yet.
I look at it and wonder if he's just being protective of Bo Nix.
Oh, I absolutely think that's the case. I think there's a little bit of a pride in the fact that, hey, we're not taking a lot of sacks. They're one of the best teams in the NFL at taking sacks. We're not turning the ball over at a very high clip. He's only thrown 5 interceptions so far in the season. Again, I think that would be something that he'd want to be even less than that. There seems like they're being a little bit careful at times, maybe too careful. And it's an interesting juxtaposition, right? Because Spencer Rattler, who they're getting ready to play this week, you watch that game and he's just flinging it all over the field, right? I mean, and we know that we saw him in South Carolina, we saw him in Oklahoma. We know what he's going to do when he gets in the NFL. He's kind of fearless that way. I don't think that's Bo Nix's game, and I'm not asking Bo Nix to do something that's not in his game, but at the same time, the NFL is it's a different deal, right? I mean, what you can get away with at the college level, and I know this sounds cliche, is just simply not going to work at the pro level. So I think that this is just an adjustment period. You're 6 games in, you're 3-3. You say that's a pretty good start for the season, but the offense is really got to have to find some footing. You got 2 games before you hit a really brutal stretch in November at Baltimore, at Kansas City. You're also going to have a home game against Atlanta. If you don't somehow get these next 2 games, well, you're probably going to be playing for next year as soon as the end of November.
There's no question about that. Do you think a short week is probably good for a team coming off a stinker against the Chargers?
I really do. And listening to the players, I was in the locker room today, as well as listening to them after the game, they're pretty amped about this. And I also say for this offense and for Bo Nix, there's some value in the fact that they really can't get too deep in the weeds on the game plan. That they're going to have to really dial in on the base install stuff, and they're really going to have to use that. I mean, you oftentimes see that at Thursday Night Football, right? I mean, we joke about, hey, it looks a little more vanilla. Well, guess what? That might actually be a good thing for the Broncos. That might be a good deal for Bo Nix. A little bit less thinking, an opportunity to sort of just say, hey, this is what we do. This is what we know and we're comfortable with. There's a reason why Bo Nix and the offense tend to look better when they're going up tempo. Because usually when you're going up tempo, your base install stuff is what you're feeding off of. Well, I think they're going to see a lot more of that. And I think that you're going to maybe see the offense look a little more comfortable out there on Thursday night.
Ryan, I can't resist throwing a basketball question at you. Michael, don't call me Mike Malone, made a statement about NBA players not being in shape, and that's why they're running in practice, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just kind of wondering how that went over with his players.
I the same question, right? I mean, it's been talked about quite a bit here in Denver. I see kind of where he's coming from with that statement, right? But at the same time, it's very directed at Jamal Murray. Like this, so many of these things.
That's what I thought.
This has been a discussion point for years now about Jamal Murray showing up in shape and really having a good workout regimen in the off season, being ready to play, not getting hurt. Unfortunately for the Nuggets, that's been a storyline for Jamal. He hasn't looked good so far in the preseason. He obviously looked terrible over the summer when playing for Team Canada, and his workouts and what he does for conditioning continues to come up. And I think that Michael Malone, again, not to call him Mike, Michael Malone wants to make sure that that's out there and make sure that Jamal knows we're all aware of it. And his time, even though he just signed a monster contract here, is going to be judged a little bit by his availability with the team.
Is it possible that we've maybe seen the best of Jamal Murray?
Absolutely. And I hate to be kind of down on it because the season hasn't even started yet, and he can definitely be a gamer. There's no doubt about that. Mm-hmm. But for Nuggets fans here in town, I mean, your last kind of visual of it was that collapse in Game 7 and part of his collapse in that game. And so far what you've seen in the preseason. And plus he was really cold and standoffish on media day, which, again, isn't like the end of the world, but you sort of couple it with everything. It's like, man, where's your attitude at? You're not playing good basketball. You're not playing at a level right now where you can suddenly be kind of a jerk to everybody, and it's okay because guess what? You're crushing it out there on the court. No, they really need him. They need him to be the Jamal Murray that helped him win a championship. But to your point, if those A's are behind him, the Nuggets are in trouble this year.
Now, what are you seeing from Westbrook?
You know, I like his energy. And I think he's going to push Jamal. I mean, he's not going to start over Jamal unless he's hurt. But I do think that there's an effort that he brings and a spark, especially off the bench. I've said for many years that I really like a Russell Westbrook coming off the bench because you need that sixth man to be a guy that can slot in with the starters when you need him to be. But otherwise, you know, he's a guy that just brings a burst, right? He brings energy almost immediately in there. Now, again, him fitting in with what they're doing here and what, you know, versus other places that he's been at, that's going to be fascinating. I mean, they bring him in, he's going to get some minutes with Jokic, but he can't be the alpha and the omega, right? He cannot be the guy that has the ball all the time. He's going to have to be a bit of a facilitator, but he's been that. He's been a triple-double guy. He can facilitate too. So fitting in with all that, fitting in with Jokic, that might take some time, but so far I really like what I've seen.
He's Ryan Edwards. He's with one of our iHeart family stations, 850 KOA in Denver. You can follow him on X at R Edwards Radio. Hey, Ryan, as always, man, I know you're gracious with your time, and we appreciate the Bo Nix update and kind of going around the horn on the NFL, man. Thank you.
Anytime, guys. Appreciate you.
See, that's the other thing we forgot to mention, Godfather, in terms of the game coming up on Sunday night with the Jets and Steelers. It'll be our first look at Devontae Adams in Jets gear. That's going to be fun, too.
Yeah, it is. I'm anxious to see how that goes with Aaron and how quickly they can get back to their old form.
Don't you think with two veterans, guys who have been around and done that, two guys who are elite, it shouldn't take too long, right? I would think.
Yeah, I saw something where somebody quoted Adams as saying, it's different because the terminology in the offense is a little different and the play calls are a little different. It might take him a little time, but they, you know, I don't think they're kind of like Kelsey and the Kansas City situation where the quarterback, the receiver are on the same wavelength anyway, regardless of what play they called, and he can look at him and see what he's going to do, and they just read each other so well. I don't think Rodgers will have any trouble getting the ball to him.
All right, I don't know where he's at. I thought he was working with FEMA. Let's go to Raider Mike right now and find out his location and what's going on. Raider Mike, welcome to the Rip City Drive. Where are you right now, bro?
Actually, Georgia. I'm in the deep, dirty South.
Nice.
I cannot understand how these people. I can't understand them when they talk. It's real thick accent, man.
Yeah.
Some of the poorest.
That's Georgia for you.
I mean, yeah, it's 2 hours southeast of Atlanta.
Wow, that's
very
pretty
poor
deep.
country.
Yeah.
Now, when are you going to Florida?
And they put me here. They want me running a tower here. I'm the first guy here. I'm stuck here until they tell me different. This isn't going to be a 2-year job, bro. I bought a brand new Nissan Rogue, so it's all good. I'll make $250,000 in the next 2 years.
Well, that's great, but Mike, talk to us about what do you see on the ground down there and the impact of the hurricane?
Just there's half the buildings are everywhere. Half the roads are closed, and your maps won't tell you if they are or not. You drive all the way to the road, there's a giant tree there, and you can't go around it. People are, and they're not used. The people here aren't used to just all the world coming to them and invading their town. It's freaking them out. And then the gas station, it's a podunk town, so there's 2 gas stations, and they just get all these first responders hit this gas station at the same time. It's just complete mayhem. They only got 4 pumps, and everyone's got to juice up, for gas, because that's what we do. We run around and clean up this crap. Plus, you got.
So is that going to?
Go ahead.
Is that going to be your main duty then, to clean up the debris?
Yeah, that's what I do. FEMA pays the state of Georgia. Georgia hires us to watch these guys clean it up. I'm the supervisor, but they want me in a tower. I'm basically a god here, because what I call their load, the percentage that their truck is full, is how much money they get paid. You know what I'm saying? It's 100 cubic yards, and I call 65%, so they only get 65 of those yards. That's how this works. I've called thousands of loads. I've called 4,000 loads out on Captiva over that year and a half I was there. Captiva Island near Fort Myers Beach.
Yeah, I've been there.
You've been to Fort Myers Beach?
Yeah. I spent some time over on that side. That's the Gulf side, I believe. Baseball spring training over there.
Boston or Minnesota?
Different teams in those days, Mike. Hey, I got to ask you though, Mike. But just quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, quickly. Do they put you up in a nice hotel, or what do you do for that? You get an allowance for that, or they tell you where to stay? How does that work?
A lot of us get our own rooms. Share a house, do that sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
Me, I run this tower, and there's a ton of equipment here, so I just crash right here.
What?
I mean, I've slept in tanks for 20 years with my head banging. It doesn't matter where I'm at. I can sleep. Now, I will treat myself to a motel once a week. Go get a nice shower, chill, jump in a pool.
Yeah.
But no, you save a ton of money.
Yeah.
I'm making $100 grand a year right now. So it's.
Who said FEMA didn't have any money, right?
I heard. I was terrified. I heard that rumor. I was like, whoa. And then all this crap with the Raiders going on. I'm like, yeah, put me where there's no cell signal, so I can't hear anything on the radio. I can't see their games. And now the devil is part owner of the Raiders. So it's and my Devontae jersey's right next to my Moss and Carr jerseys, permanently gone and hung up and retired. We are dumpster fire. 3 starters hurt on defense. It's just a mess. Now Jackson Powers Johnson is a beast. That kid out of the Duck.
Yeah.
That guy he's just fun to watch because he's one of those. He's like Richie Incognito. He's going to run you down and try and kill you. He's definitely a
All right. Hey, Raider Mike, we appreciate it, my friend. We'll catch up soon. There's Raider Mike in the backwoods of Georgia. No cell reception, ignoring the Raiders and the mess, which is Las Vegas, sleeping on a tower working for FEMA. That's incredible. All right, Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. All right, mad respect to Shacker for playing Milli Vanilli.
Yeah.
Chris Burkhart is next to me. He's standing by for Blazer Game Day coming up at 5. And Godfather, I'm having Blazer fans reach out to me. I reposted the link the Trailblazers sent out for the free digital antenna so that you can watch Trailblazer games on K2 and 2.2 charge. The best part is, like, it's not too often when people can get over in today's world with the inflation and the price of everything. Not only are they sending out a free digital antenna, the shipping is free as well. Like, this is your chance to finally get over in the year 2024. Order up your digital antenna, and it will be shipped to you for free. Like, you can't beat that, man. That's golden. How often can you say you get over in today's world, Godfather?
Well, and you're going to see the games for free. Come on now. I don't know how you can lose on the whole thing.
No, but seriously, when was the last time you spent money or you went to a restaurant or a store and you thought, man, I got over in that situation? That was a good deal. I can't remember the last time that happened with me.
Me either. It's been years, I'm sure. Nowadays.
Well, except for yesterday. Yesterday we were invited to Motor Center for Taste at Motor Center, and we got to sample all of their offerings for free. I didn't have to pay. Did you pay for that? I didn't have to pay for anything.
No, don't pay.
We got over yesterday.
Yeah, we did, I guess. Yeah, in fact, I think I had 2 or 3 of those shave ice, and I had a couple of those Kittemans, too. So I did okay.
Yeah, good work. I don't even like to know. Having girls is really it's problematic on many levels, but one thing I've realized about having a 14-year-old daughter, like, girls are more expensive than boys. I don't even want to know about the clothes, the makeup, the this, the that, or whatever. It's like I don't need to know. Because when I go to the grocery store and I see a box of cereals like $5, it gives me it gives me indigestion. It's like, what's going on here? Now I understand why my dad, he reached a point where he doesn't want to know any details about shopping that my mom's been on. For years, he's like, I don't want to know. Don't tell me.
Nah, it's better not to even
she handles
go.
it.
Let her go and get it and don't even know. Yeah.
Dude,
I don't like shopping. I don't like grocery stores anyway. Never have. Don't like them.
No, I don't. I'm not down. I like to go when there's less people. That's hard to do. But my dad, the transformation of my dad, he told me that young in marriage, he used to worry about every dollar spent, but his time has gone on. He's like, it's not worth the worry. I don't want to create any tension in the marriage. Mom can go do whatever she's got to do, and I don't want to know about it.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Don't tell me.
Yeah.
Out of sight, out of mind.
But right now, she knows what's good and what isn't. She's got to handle everything perfectly. She's got a good head on her shoulders, that woman. I know that.
Yeah, she's got the dude, I know we were talking about Genius. I know people that know how to shop and do it the right way. They got the coupon for this. They know which store to hit. They got it down to a science, man.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And they get like the double bonus points and all these different things. Like, you and I are probably like, dude, just give me, I don't care what I pay. Just the sooner I can get out of here, the better. The convenience. I like to pay for convenience. I don't mind that. I know you don't either.
No, not at all. In fact, Chad, I hate to admit this on the radio. You know those numbers that you give out at Fred Meyer and Safeway and all that to get the discount? Yeah, I got the card here somewhere. I don't know. Well, how about your phone number? Well, yeah, but it's my old phone number, and I just here, take my money and give me my change, and I'll be on my way.
You don't even bother with the number, even if they offer to scan it.
No.
Yeah, it's like whatever.
Yeah, and they give me the card about half the time. Well, here's the card. Okay. And I don't know, half the time it doesn't even get home with me. And if I do bring it, I don't know where it is.
Yeah, just what I want is an extra card in my wallet.
Yeah. I can't even sit on my wallet anymore. It's too big.
Do people even use business cards anymore in today's world?
I there's a few. Yeah, there's a few. Yeah, the best ones, they're putting ones out now. There's just one card. I think it might even be metal. And if somebody wants your card, you show it to them, they take a picture of it, and then they've got your card.
See, there's too much hassle in today's world. The problem is, like, who was it? Rachel, big-time listener, big Blazer fan. She hit me up on Twitter. She DM'd me on Twitter, and I hadn't seen the message for a while. And so I sent her a message and said, hey, if you need to get a hold of me, here's my cell number. Text me, and I guarantee you a quick response. I can't even keep up with all the different DMs now and all these different apps. It's too much, man.
Yeah,
I just give everyone my phone number. It's like, hit me up directly. I don't need this DM nonsense. It's too much.
Chad, everybody in the world has your phone number by now.
I know. You know what's crazy? Justin Myers, he reached out to me over the weekend. He's like, hey, do you have Dwight's number? And I'm like, what the? You don't have Dwight's number?
He did not. No, I didn't have his either.
Well, that's just ridiculous. I understand why you wouldn't have his. There's no reason why Justin would ever be important in your life. But it's not like you haven't been – I'm serious. It's not like you haven't been covering sports for 50 years in the area. You would think by now he would have had you on a show that he's done in the past. But no, that's not the case. He told me, he's like, well, I realize I always Twitter DM'd him. I'm like, what? You don't have the Godfather's number? That's insanity.
He doesn't have me on very often, and I always tell him, I'm usually up when you go on the air. You can call me anytime. I'll go on short notice, whatever. That's what you do when you work here, because he would do the same for us. And every time he comes on, he says, you guys are the best. And I'm not sure we are, but he says it, so I'm willing to go on his show anytime. He's the best, right?
Are you like one of the old dudes? What time do you wake up every morning? Like my Uncle Roy got up every morning at like 4 a.m. Like, what's your calling card in the morning? 5?
No, 6 usually, because that's when Nancy gets up. So, and I like to get started on the email and the searches for topics and kind of catch up on what's going on in the world. And then I got some morning shows I watch, so I'm good with that. I don't stay
What time
up
does
late.
Nancy get up? Does Nancy get up early?
She gets up that's why I get up at 6, because that's when she gets up. But, Chad, I used to be that nighttime guy. When I was at a newspaper, if I was to bed before 2 or 2:30 in the morning, it was an amazing night.
Well, that's part of it too. I'm set on a swing schedule. I have been for years. So
yeah.
I can't go to bed at 8 p.m. That's not happening. 9 p.m. No way. I got things to consume. All right, that's going to do it for us. Big thanks to Michael Shacker, Section 111, running the show and producing. Thank you, buddy. Ryan Edwards, 850 KOA. Chris Burkhart has got Blazers game day coming up next, and then Dwight and I are back for Rip City Drive tomorrow at 3. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, will be in studio with us during the 5 o'clock hour. Have a good night, Godfather.
Same to you.
Well, hello there, Blazer fans. Welcome into Blazers Game Day. I am your host, Chris Burkhart. We are here back in our home, away from home, up here outside Section 330 next to the Pines. Oh, boy. That's right. We're inside mode today because the Blazers are opening up their preseason home slate tonight against Ratio Farm of the German Basketball League. It's going to be a fun one. All eyes on this one, and I don't mean that by any exaggeration. Sean Hyken, friend of the show of the Rose Garden Report, tweeted out earlier that word on the street is there are 50 scouts here for this one because Ratio Farm has 2 players on their team, Noah Asengu and Ben Serif, who are both projected lottery picks. And I confirmed this report. I know he doesn't need to be confirmed. Sean knows what the heck he's doing. But as I was downstairs waiting to get our credential to get into the game, I ran into a few of those scouts and was talking to them. And let me tell you what, they said that this might be one of the bigger games of the year around the NBA. It's a rare chance for the scouts to get out in the preseason. Not a ton going on with the regular season craziness and travel, all that yet. Still got a little time to get out. And they are all coming here because, again, the Blazers playing a team that has 2 projected lottery picks on it. That's good for the Blazers, too. I mean, point out the fact that Casey Holdall said, hey, there's two lottery picks on this team, and that's not coincidental, right? So the Blazers maybe got this one scheduled to do a little bit of scouting work themselves. Because, of course, everyone talks about Cooper Flagg, right? He is the gem of the upcoming draft, a can't-miss prospect, right? But last year, going into the draft, everyone was talking about how it's all right, but there's just not a lot of depth in this draft. This is the draft in 2025, though. Everyone's saying it's top to bottom. The entire lottery and then some is stacked with talent, so it's a good chance for the Blazers to see some of those guys come through. And apparently a lot of the NBA is here to see those guys come through, and they will take on your Portland Trail Blazers tonight. The Blazers coming off of a nice win down in Sacramento, which was a nice bounce back after the unfortunate preseason opening loss to the Clippers up in Seattle. But the Blazers, man, taking care of business, doing what they need to do in Sacramento. You like that. I thought the biggest part of that game for me was the bounce back from Scoot Henderson. I thought that was huge. To get him to go out there after the game in Seattle where it was turnover city is what it felt like, and a lot of poor decisions on his part, to go out there against the Sacramento Kings and bounce back and have that turnover to assist ratio bounce back in his favor, right? It was 7 assists, just 1 turnover, and that's exactly what you want to see from Scoot Henderson. The overall shooting, it is what it is. Like, I'm not going to get too up in arms about that one. Do you want the ball to start falling and the shots to look a little bit better? I mean, of course you do. Of course you do. But, again, preseason, I'm not going to be too up in arms with what I see coming out of the Blazers. There are things that we can work on, though, and I do think Scoot Henderson's shooting is one of them. 5 of 13 on the night in Sacramento. A little bit of an improvement from his night that he had in Seattle against the Los Angeles Clippers. That one always confuses me. Just do us all a favor, NBA. Bring back our Sonics. Just do it now. You should have done it, when you decided to move the Thunder. You should have never done that in the first place. No disrespect to OKC. They absolutely deserve a team. That's a good arena out there, great fan base. You ever get out to Oklahoma City, I'll tell you that. The place is always packed. The energy's great. But you could have just given them the Thunder without taking the Sonics, right? I also selfishly want the I-5 rivalry. I want an away game. I'm sure Blazer fans do too now, right? You want that away game where you can just jump in your car and head up north and go watch your Blazers on a road game, right? So bring them back. Bring them back. Bring back Vancouver while you're at it. Who doesn't want to go to BC? Now let's continue to take a look at that Blazers-Sacramento game, though. This is game 2 of the preseason as the Blazers improved to 1-1 on the preseason. 2 more games left tonight against Ratio Farm and then on Friday against Utah. In that game, Blazers won 105-85. Toumani Camara, 13 points, 2 steals, a rebound, and an assist. And I think to this point in the early preseason, he definitely has an argument for being Blazers preseason MVP. He's been absolutely phenomenal. He's been aggressive offensively, which is what you like to see. And then defensively, he's just as advertised, right? He was good enough last year to get on the floor defensively, played so well that Chauncey couldn't help but keep him on the court as long as he needed to, right? And I think this year he's getting better on that end. And he's going to find more ways to stay on the court, which is exactly what you want from Toumani Camara. The interesting part will be how you balance those minutes, because he's your starting small forward last year. Now you got Denny Advia, who's likely the starting small forward. Of course, you never know what happens with trades and how the roster shapes out. Maybe you have a future with Toumani at the 3 and Denny at the 4. There's plenty of things you can do, but thus far, Toumani Camara has been absolutely outstanding. I mean, those 13 points and all that was just in 23 minutes of action as the starters kind of played their runs and didn't go too much further. Jeremy Grant played just 16 minutes. He had 9 points, and in Jeremy Grant fashion, no rebounds to go with it, but he did score the ball efficiently, 3 of 6 from the floor. Denny Advia, in his debut, he had 5 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists for your Portland Trailblazers. And then DeAndre Ayton, he played just 18 minutes, 5 of 8, and 11 points, 8 rebounds, and no block shots, though. I still want to see him get more aggressive on that defensive end, but he wasn't pressing too hard this preseason, right? Scoot Henderson, as we said, he did have 17 points on 5 of 13 shooting, 2 steals, 7 assists, and 1 turnover. And for me, that was the biggest improvement from Game 1 to Game 2, was getting that assist-to-turnover ratio back in his favor, being less careless with the ball. I mean, when you're the point guard, you're going to have turnovers, right? It's like a quarterback in the NFL. There's no quarterback who has been a starter and a star and a what have you and has gone their entire career without throwing an interception, right? When you're forcing the ball downfield and you're trying to make plays, sometimes the turnovers happen, and that's going to happen with Scoot. But when you can have more of these nights where he has more assists than turnovers, especially a 7-to-1 ratio there in this game, that's exactly what you want to see from your point guard. On the bench, Jabari Walker chipped in 11 points, had 3 rebounds. He's been very good coming off the bench as well. And Justin Minaya had an 8-minute run. Didn't fill up the box score zeros except for that 1 rebound, but he did get a run. And then there's another player that I actually very eager to watch as they develop, and that's Chris Murray. He played 20 minutes, got a chance to play against his brother there a little bit, got 6 points, 3 assists, and a rebound. And he's one that I'm very eager to see tonight in person, right? Because he's one that has kind of built out that frame, grown up a little bit in the offseason. I think it was DeAndre Ayton at Media Day said, he walked into the practice facility and thought it was Keegan, right? Like that's how much he's kind of beefed up and looked the part. So I want to see how he looks in person. And you continue to go down the roster. Rupert had 3 points. He played 21 minutes. Delano Banton had 12 points in 18 minutes. He also threw in 2 assists as well. And I know he's a Blazer fan favorite, kind of your backup point guard right now. And then I think for most Blazer fans, all eyes tonight aren't going to be on Scoot. They're not going to be on anyone else who may or may not. But I think all eyes are going to be on the Blazers' big man, Donovan Clingan, right? Because he was the guy you picked him in the draft there at 7. You didn't think he was going to get there. Joe Cronin said, I didn't expect that he'd get down there. I thought one of the teams ahead of us was going to draft him, or one of the teams behind us was going to find a way to trade up. That didn't happen. He was available. And the Blazers got him, and he's been very, very good on the defensive end of things right now. He's made some rookie mistakes like you saw in that first game against Seattle where, he tried to go for a steal instead of a block. He got lobbed on late in the game, and like Coach Billups said, you're a big man. You're 7 foot tall. Your job is to block shots. Get your hands up. Don't put your hands down low. Your job's not to get steals. Your job's to get blocks. And I think he's going to figure that out and be better as the season goes on. He played 18 minutes in that win over the Sacramento Kings. He was 5 of 9 from the floor, 10 rebounds, 2 block shots, and 10 points. So, again, you like to see that. I also like the fact that he only had 2 personal fouls because that's something you got to adjust to as a big guy, too. This game, the NBA, it's definitely a little more physical than what you were playing at the college level, right? You're playing against a lot bigger guys every single night. There was a lot of nights where Donovan Clingan might have been the only 7-footer on the floor. That's not the case anymore. He's not even the only 7-footer on his team, right? So you got to get used to that. And with that aggression comes, the propensity to pick up fouls and pick them up often, right? So he comes into these games and he only has 2 personal fouls and he has those 2 block shots. I look at that and I'm like, I like the aggressiveness without getting yourself into too much trouble. That's big time. So I like that. I'm very eager to see him tonight. I know everyone talks about he's just huge, and you watch the games on TV, and you see him at practice. You're like, yeah, he's big. He's definitely big. I want to see him in person to see just how big He is. Is he as advertised? I hope so. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on Blazers Game Day. If you want to follow me, you can do so at Chris J. Burkhart on X, or go to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio, and join the chat there. When we come back, though, we're going to head to the Coach's Corner here from head coach Chauncey Billups, right here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620.
have a middle long one like Rip City Drive.
I talked to Trav. He thinks the idea of a proposal showing
All right, welcome back into Blazers Game Day. I'm your host, Chris Burkhart. You can follow me on X at Chris J. Burkhart. Send me all your questions, comments, and concerns. And that was the Coach's Corner Open. We are waiting patiently for Coach Billups to head to the podium. As soon as he does, Mike Shacker will politely bring that audio up, and I'll stop talking for you. But his first press availability here at the home for the preseason. He was at the game in Seattle, so media got to talk to him. He was not at the game in Sacramento. He was in Massachusetts getting inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. So good on him. Congratulations to Coach Billups. Assistant coach Nate Borkran was the fill-in for him in that game in Sacramento. Did a pretty good job, if you do say so myself. But good to have Chauncey back tonight, and we'll hear from him in just a second. What is that feeling like, though? To go give a speech in front of everyone at the Basketball Hall of Fame? Like, that's special. That's super special. I don't know. I don't know what that's feel like. I haven't been inducted into any Hall of Fames yet. I'm working on it. Maybe if I host this long enough, they'll induct me into the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame. I got to work on that one. I don't know. You probably have to have someone nominate you, so I might have to, convince Shacker with a couple T-bones and ribeyes that he needs to nominate me for the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame. See how that one goes. But we'll get to Chauncey Billups in just a second, and I want to see how he uses those big men tonight. We talked about Donovan Clingan and DeAndre Ayton. He's talked a lot about getting the two bigs on the floor at the same time in potential situations. So how do we see that play out tonight? I do think you can go in small spurts with DeAndre Ayton playing power forward next to Donovan Clingan. I know people have brought up their apprehensions of that because, DeAndre, he's more of a center. It's hard for him to move around and play defensively at the four. And I do agree with that. He's not super, super quick outside of the paint. Like a Zach Collins, I loved watching Zach Collins play defense because of his ability to get from the paint to the three-point line and guard those three-point shots. That's not Ayton's strengths. However, he's big enough. Offensively, he hits that 15-footer with ease, so he can play that power forward offensively. And then defensively, he's still going to be good, but you can't go 15-minute spurts with two 7-footers who like to play in the paint and guard the rim, because that's going to leave the defense open to easy three-pointers. Maybe he learns how to play that defensively over the shift, but or over the season. But I do want to see spurts of it to see how it goes, because that would be super nice to have two big men who just sit there and defend and have some fun. Also, see if we get any updates on the status of our injured Blazers, right? And you do have Tumani Kamara, I got confused because I heard Billups. Let's head back to the podium.
No Ant, no Jeremy. Ant was just a little sore. His ankle was just a little sore, but he's coming along just fine. No worries. I hope so. He practiced pretty good yesterday, but was sore after. So.
What's up with Jeremy?
Jeremy, just rest.
Just rest?
Nothing's wrong with Jeremy. He's fine. Everybody else,
So in terms of
everything else is cool. I'm going Scoot, Roops, Denny, 2, DA.
What have you seen from Tumani this preseason? It seems like he's taken a pretty big leap on the offensive end from even where he was at the end of the season.
Yeah, 2 had a great summer. He really did. Surprised at the jump that he made, considering how much time he actually missed. I mean, he couldn't really play live until almost around Summer League based on the injury he had at the end of the season. And then he got banged up a little bit in August and couldn't travel with the team when they went to
in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, they just got to keep playing good, man. Roops is another guy that I think made a pretty decent jump. You watched him in these couple games. I mean, his defensive pressure and intensity, it kind of changes games for us. He's super competitive, gets his hands on a lot of basketballs, deflections and steals, and he's shooting it pretty decent. He's gotten a lot better. And then Chris as well. Chris does everything that you ask of him, and he does it really hard, offensive rebound, all of the things, He's worked on his shot, quite a bit this year, so hopefully we see some progress there. He's been a little up and down with it, but he does everything you ask him, man. He really does. We got a lot of depth at those spots, so I don't know if they'll be in the rotation or not, but they both play decent.
If they aren't in the rotation right out of the gate, if health permitting, Is the plan to send some guys down to the remix earlier and have them kind of keep their legs or keep them up with the squad?
I haven't even made the plan on that yet, to be honest with you. To be honest with you, I don't even know when they start, bro. I don't even know how fast it's going. Yeah, a month from now, but we play in a week, so you know what I mean, a week or so. So, yeah, I don't know. I like to have them here, and at least until then, where we can continue to get work in, continue to practice, continue to do things. So, but they've been doing a good job though.
Is it a problem with Scoot missing in-game action time in the preseason with both Shaden and Ant, although he could play Friday, but is that a problem?
I mean, it's not ideal. It's not ideal, but it's nothing that we can really do about it. You know, in practice, you try to get some reps with those guys, but it's not much that you really can do about it. I just want Scoot to get out there and get all the minutes that he can get. You know, he missed a lot of time this summer. You know, he worked on his body and he worked on his game, but there's nothing like playing in games, you know, so he needs so much development that way. So we'll take what we can get in terms of minutes right now for Scoot.
How do you think he looked Sunday compared to the first game?
Much better, much more confident. I thought he was a little more under control in the game. His defensive pressure was better. You know, that was the biggest thing. In the Clipper game, I was disappointed in him defensively. I didn't think he competed hard enough defensively. I thought he let guys get around him that shouldn't have been able to get around him, you know. So he was better in the sack game. And then we'll see how he does tonight.
How do you toggle Denny on and off ball and get him familiar with guys and get him in those reps as far as being that primary initiator that you guys want to work in with him?
Yeah, a lot of it you have to, you do it in timeouts sometime. You do it in some of the play calls. You can get them up there with the ball, we find ways to figure it out, but there'll be plenty of opportunity for him to kind of play make and, use his passing and his size to create advantages for us.
What do you get out of playing a team like this, an international team from Germany? Is it different, or is it?
A lot. It is different. It's totally different. I mean, they'll play so much different than most NBA teams will. I mean, you'll see what they're moving and cutting and all of that. They'll play fast and shoot a lot of threes. And but to me, it's all about us working on what we need to work on. And yeah, you got a game plan a little different. Like, for instance, they when I was watching them, they hedge kind of hard on, pick and rolls, and no team plays like that anymore. I can remember me having to worry about those coverages sometimes, but hedging sometimes. They do a lot of different things, but, you have to prepare for something a little bit different, which is pretty cool to just kind of relive that and reteach that. But yes, it is. It's different. But you just worry about yourself. You worry about us and trying to get some continuity.
Is there also an aspect that they might play a little bit harder than the average NBA team in the preseason, so that gives you something else too?
Yeah, this is a Super Bowl for them. This is like they flew over here not even 2 days ago. Had a game, flew here, practiced after they flew, playing today, leaving again. I mean, this is crazy, for real. But it's a big time. It's a Super Bowl for them, and they got some good young prospects on their team that we'll probably be seeing in the NBA very soon. So, yeah, it's a big deal for them, for sure. All right. Thank you.
There you hear from head coach Chauncey Billups. Biggest thing out of that one is that Anthony Simons will not play tonight as he continues to nurse a few little lingering injuries, but coach does hope to get him back in the lineup for Friday's preseason finale against the Jazz. Jeremy Grant also out tonight just for little preseason vet rest, right? You don't have to run them all 4 games. Starters tonight will be Scoot, Rupert, Denny Advia, Tumani Kamara, and DeAndre Ayton. We're going to take a quick break here, though, on Blazers Game Day. When we come back, I want to talk about Denny Advia. He's getting the start tonight, and he talked to the media at availability yesterday. And I was talking to some of the scouts before the game, and they said it's a great pickup for the Blazers. He is a very, very good young player, and the potential still through the roof. So I want to talk about maybe a future star in the making here for your Portland Trail Blazers. Coming up next on Blazers Game Day on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhart here with you, as I will be for about 90% of the games this year. There are a few that I got to tag out for because, you know, I got a lot of things on the plate. I'm a busy man. I got to go cover some high school state championships in November. That's right around the corner. Volleyball and cross country and football. Oh, my. It's going to be a fun one. I was actually talking about high school sports when I was waiting for the credential downstairs, just cracking up because, like I said, I was talking to some scouts, and one of them happened to be from Atlanta, and I asked him, I was like, how often do you get to Portland? He's like, it's actually my first trip, and he's like, it's beautiful out here. I'm like, you are so lucky. Like, do you know how often the weather's this nice in October? Like, never. Usually you're soaked in rain already. It's gloomy. It's gray. I mean, last week took the kids out to the pumpkin patch for a little field trip with their cheer squad, man, and I was, like, sweating. And it's like it was beautiful. And I've never been to the pumpkin patch where I didn't leave and my shoes weren't crusted in mud. So it's beautiful weather out right now. Hopefully it leads to some beautiful basketball here inside Moda Center tonight, where Blazers take on Ratio Farm from the German Basketball League. And it's going to be a really good game for you draft nuts out there, because this team does have two potential lottery picks on their roster, Noah Sengu and Ben Seraph. I know, as I said earlier, Sean Hyken tweeted out that there's upwards of 50 scouts here tonight just to watch this game. It's a big game, a chance to see two lottery picks on the court against an NBA team, which is just not something that gets to happen very often. Get the eyes out here. And with the way the schedules are too, right? It's not the 82-game journey yet. It's not the marathon. You get a little bit of a break here in preseason in between these games. You can get your scouts out to travel and make it quite nice. And, you know, it's not very often that you do. You get a chance to see a German basketball club come in, play an NBA team, a team that has lottery picks on it. And it's rare, I feel like, you get one that has one lottery pick on it, let alone two. So it's a big game for scouts, a big game for Trailblazer fans, because you never know where the Blazers end in the draft. Maybe these are guys that the Blazers are eyeing as well. So big night to watch the Blazers hopefully grab a win in their preseason home opener. Now, I did say I want to talk about Denny Avdija of your Portland Trailblazers. Blazer fans, many have not got a chance to see him in action yet. I mean, he's only played one game with the Blazers. That was that win in the last preseason game against the Sacramento Kings, 5 points and 5 rebounds, as we talked about earlier. But this is the type of guy that I think is really going to open up this offense if he starts to hit his potential and hit his stride. Last year, he averaged 15 points per game, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. So he's a guy that you can put the ball in his hand, let him faith that he makes them, and then, of course, he can clean up the glass as well. So he does a lot of little things that the Blazers need from that small forward position or that power forward position, depending on when and where you play him. But it also gives the Blazers flexibility in the long run. Like I said, they're playing him right now at the 3. They're playing 2 at the 4 to start the game tonight. You can switch them around because they can both play both positions. So it's a good problem to have, right, is that versatility in your athletes. And it's interesting because I know there were some people like, oh, really? You gave up Malcolm Brogdon and a first-round pick to get him? And then I know most people, myself included, thought that the Malcolm Brogdon trade was going to bring in a first-round pick when the Blazers decided to part ways with him. But they had to give a little to get a lot in Denny Avdija. And as I've been talking to some people around the league, they said that, yeah, the Blazers did give up a lot, but the potential for Avdija makes it worth it. Like, I have met far more people high on him than people low on him. And people who I've talked to who cover multiple teams in the league or cover teams not named the Trailblazers see a lot more of those East Coast teams rave about the guy. So I've already said I'm excited to see 2 tonight. I'm excited to see Donovan Clingan. Add Denny Avdija to the list of players that I want to see tonight for the first time in person and see how he gets going. He will be starting tonight, in case you're just tuning in. He will get the start tonight alongside Scoot Henderson, Ryan Rupert, Toumani Camara, and DeAndre Ayton. And Coach Billups was asked about Denny Avdija in the pre-game press conference, and he raves about him and how they can use him as well. And Denny Avdija did have a chance to sit down and talk with the media yesterday after practice.
Still got my legs under me a little bit, trying to figure out style of play, figure out how to play with the guys It's my first official game since April of last year, so as I said, it was good to be out there, good to have some run, get my win back, and I think we'll be more connected, we'll be better.
What's the toughest thing to adjust to when you're going from one team to another like that?
It's just, I feel like the tendencies of the other guys, how they like to play, us as a team, like how we approach the game, what we want to do, and the whole kind of preparation. I feel like every team is different. Every team want to play at a different pace, a different style, and I feel like I still adjust to it. There's a lot of habits that I did with Washington that I got to clear now that I'm playing with Portland. But a great group of guys. Obviously, I'll adjust, and I think we have a very talented group. I'll be all right.
Is it better to be aggressive through that, or to be more hesitant and sort of feel it out?
You're talking about what?
In terms of adjusting to your new teammates, in terms of how they play, it's just.
I think I shouldn't be really aggressive. I feel like you do need to push a little bit to see where you're at, but I feel like also letting each other know everybody's game, and I feel like we do it. I know where DA likes to catch the balls, how Scoot likes to drive, when he wants to drive, stuff like that. I feel like it's something that builds with time.
How much stuff is different here versus Washington, and how much is the same?
A lot. It's a different team. I feel like in the end of the day, it's like the NBA. You play a certain way, you play a certain style. We're young, we're fast, we're athletic. So it wasn't very different than Washington. But different players, different tendencies, as I said. You got to learn how to play through it. It's just part of life.
And there you hear Denny Avdia at practice yesterday, and that's a good point that he was making there, is the fact that it takes time to get acclimated, to understand the tendencies of the players around you that you're playing with. I mean, you need to understand, is Scoot a drive and dish guy? Does he like to throw the lobs? We know he does. There was a couple miscommunications in that game against the Clippers where he's trying to throw a lob to Klingon and a lob to DA, respectively. So you need to know that. You need to know, not only that, you need to know what kind of passer is he. Does he put the ball in a good shooter pocket for you? I mean, that's something I think Jason Williams, there's clips of him going around on social for years about how he always tried to make sure the pass lined up in the shooter's hand so they didn't have to adjust it. Because there's some guys, and I feel like I'm one of them when I'm out there at the gym, I don't like shooting the ball with the stripes. I got to have my hand going perpendicular to them, so the ball's just sitting in my hand right. And, how does a point guard set you up? So you got to learn those tendencies. You also got to learn, again, how do those around you cut? How do they play defensively? Yes, we have an idea of what you want to do, but even though we're supposed to go over the pick, does this player have a propensity to go under? When are we switching? How do we communicate? How do we say those things? Those things are going to take time. And like you said, he's only played one game, that game against Sacramento, since last April. And that was not only his first game in months, it was his first game with a brand new team, learning different plays and different habits and different sets. And like you said, there's things that he did in Washington that he's not going to have to do here, so he has to work those out of his system and learn the new things. So, again, I'm not upset with a 5.5 rebound game. I'm excited to see him tonight. In fact, to see how he progresses. Maybe he has a bigger impact offensively, which would be wonderful to see, and starts getting those shots falling. But the Blazers, yes, they gave up Malcolm Brogdon and a first-round pick to get Denny, but I do think Denny is a really, really good player who, again, multiple people around the league that I've talked to, very, very high on this guy, which is exciting. You can almost feel like, hey, the Blazers won the trade. Did they give up some pieces? Sure, but this is a guy you can build around. And then that starts to excite me, right? Because if Scoot gets on the floor and Shaden's healthy and you're playing him with Denny and you got two and you got Klingon and now those guys are playing together, and now you go into next year and those are still the core and they're playing together, that's how you start to build the chemistry, man. And chemistry is a major, major underrated component of how good or bad a team will be. I mean, you look at the Blazer teams that we all loved, the run to the 2019 Western Conference Finals, right? I think there are people in this fan base who still adore Maurice Harkless and Al-Farouq Aminu, right? But that lineup, realistically, you're like, they got that out of Mo Harkless and Al-Farouq Aminu, two guys who fizzled out as soon as they left Portland. Granted, there's injuries and stuff, but, I mean, they're not in the league right now. They still could be. But in Portland, what they had that they didn't have anywhere else after they left was that chemistry. When you have played hundreds of games with Damian Lillard and hundreds of games with C.J. McCollum, and everyone just knows where to be, when to be there, what they're doing without even communicating, that's how you get the best out of teams that may not be as talented as teams around them. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Maurice Harkless and Al-Farouq Aminu were untalented. They were very, very good. Now, I always argued then, and I still argue now, like on a championship team, even at that point, if they're playing their best ball, they're probably rotation guys. Like, they're your 6th and 7th guy off the bench. But Portland got the most out of them, and they had great success. Why? Chemistry. Chemistry matters. So the sooner the Blazers can get off of figuring out who's going to be on the roster next and what moves happening and can start building that core and that chemistry, it's going to go a long, long way. And again, I think that's something that Denny was talking about there, is learning how everyone around you plays. Because not only do you have to learn them, they have to learn you. Where is your shooting pocket? Where do you like the ball on the pass? Are you more effective in the corner or up above the key? Do you like to play with your back to the basket? I mean, their centers. Look at just going into an entry pass right in the paint. Do you like the ball higher? Do you like a bounce pass? Like, all these things you got to figure out when you're playing with a new team. It's all about the puzzle, man. That's the job that Coach Billups has to do with this young Blazers team. All right, we're going to take another break here on the fifth, or on game day, not the fifth quarter. I'm looking ahead to post game. I'm so excited that I get to host games now. It's so fun hosting these shows. But when we return, it's time to hand out some keys to the game. What do I think the Blazers have to do to get a victory here in their preseason opener? Chris Burkhardt here with you on Blazers Game Day on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Blazers Game Day, and it is time now for your keys to the game. What are the keys to a Blazer victory? In this one, it's again, I'm going to say, be aggressive defensively on the three-point arc. They did a decent job against the Kings in Sacramento. Granted, the Kings just didn't shoot the ball well overall, but Sacramento was 5 of 28 from beyond the arc. That's 17.9%. The Blazers shot 14 of 39, 35%, and that was a big difference. Anytime you go out there and you hit, almost 10 or more shots from beyond the arc than your opponent, you're going to get out to big leads, and that was pretty impressive. The other thing the Blazers need to do in this one is continue to try to work on that ball control, right? You saw it from Scoot Henderson with the 7 assists and only 1 turnover. I like that. Blazers against the Kings, they had 20 turnovers, and that might be a high number, but the Kings did have 27, so they outperformed the Kings in that rank. So get the assists up. I like that, but keep the turnovers low. That assist-to-turnover ratio is something that you want to have in your favor every single night, and that's going to start with Scoot and Delano and even Denny, who's going to have situations where he's running the offense as well. But you can't give away free points. I say it all the time. If you have a turnover, it doesn't necessarily lead to points, but what it guarantees is that you didn't have a chance to get points, right? Because you can't score points without taking a shot. And if you never get a chance to take that shot, you have robbed yourself of an opportunity to score points. Now, the other team might go down and miss a shot, but even if they missed a shot, what did they have? They had an opportunity to score points, which is either a chance to dig into a lead that you have or to extend a lead that they already have. And you can't give that to them for free. So you got to control the ball at all costs. So those are a few of my minor keys to this one. Again, I don't know what the keys are to a preseason game just because you don't know how Rasho Farm plays. You don't know how the Blazers are going to look without Anthony out there, Jeremy Grant, who's not playing due to rest, and in the latest updated injury report, this came out about 5 seconds before we came back live to the segment, Jeremy Grant is out for rest. Shaedon Sharpe out still, obviously dealing with the labral tear, has a few more weeks of that. Anthony Simons has right ankle soreness. Coach does hope that he will play on Friday. Matisse Thybulle is out with right knee soreness. Jabari Walker is out with right ankle soreness, and Robert Williams is out with his left hamstring strain. So you already have 6 men on the Blazers injury report out tonight versus Rasho Farm. So there we go. That is your updated injury report. It's unfortunate because I was hoping to see Jabari Walker get some run. He's a fun player. I like to see the growth that he has and how he's progressing. I think last year, defense was good. The offense started to come around. You've seen highlights on social where he's starting to hit that three-pointer with effectiveness and ease. So I was hoping to get a chance to see him play, but he won't be out there tonight. So tonight you're going to see Scoot, you're going to see Rupert, you're going to see Denny, you're going to see Tu, and you're going to see DA in the starting lineup. And then you're going to have to deal with, the likes of Chris Murray, Delano Banton, Donovan Kling, and Dwap Reith getting their runs off the bench. And I said it earlier, I'm so excited to see Donovan Kling in person tonight. I know some people got to see him during the NCAA tournament and all that, but no, I'm excited to see him tonight in Portland wearing a Blazer jersey and up close in person. I mean, we've listened to the radio calls over the first 2 games. Some of you have been fortunate enough to see the games if you had NBA League Pass and whatnot, but for a lot of people, it's going to be their first chance to put eyes on Donovan Kling tonight. I'm one of them, and I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see just how big he looks compared to everyone else on the floor. I'm excited to see how he moves. I'm excited to see where his eyes go. I know that sounds weird, but I want to see where is he looking on every single play. And we've seen this before. I'm not exaggerating. We've seen players who are good, but they've had very limited field of view. Right, like they're going to go get their block shots, but they're not head on a swivel, eyes pivoting, looking every which direction to see where the ball is, who's cutting where everybody is. You see that type of defender? Is his head all over the place so he can see where is the next possible route that this ball could go? Where do I need to defend? Where do I need to be ready? Like kind of like a true free safety, right? In the NFL or college football, a guy whose head's on a swivel because he has to cover 50 yards left to right and 100 yards front to back. He has to be everywhere. His job's not like a defensive tackle just to fill a hole. He's got to be everywhere and do it all. And I want to see how Donovan Kling does in person. I'm excited for that. Again, also excited to see Scoot in person again tonight. A lot of us haven't had a chance to see him in person, obviously, since last year. Some of us are fortunate enough to go up to Seattle, the lucky ones. But again, how does he look? I know it sounds dumb, but there's things in the arena that you can see that you can't see on TV, right? And so, because I dictate where the camera goes. My eyes are my camera. I dictate where I'm looking and what I'm trying to see. And as the great Yogi Berra once said, you can observe a lot by watching. And I hope to observe quite a bit tonight here at Moda Center as your Blazers take on German club Ratio Farm which I am probably butchering, which is terrible because Burkhardt is a German last name. And, I need to work on that. But it is a big night. For those of you just tuning in to this team, the Blazers are playing tonight, they do have 2 players on their roster who are projected lottery picks in the 2025 NBA draft. That's big time. That's big time because not only are the Blazers getting a chance to see them, got a bunch of scouts here looking to see them as well. So this team might not be a slouch. There might be some good talent on there, and we get to see it here in just a few minutes. But don't go anywhere because coming up next, it's the Blazers pregame show on the Blazers Audio Network with Chad Doing. And then, of course, you'll have the Blazers game with Travis Demers on the call. And then right after the game, right back here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio, it is the 5th quarter with yours truly. I will see you after the game. Hopefully we're talking about a Blazer victory. Hey, before you leave, yeah, you got me. I was gonna disconnect and reconnect this thing just so I know how to do it, but I don't even know how to disconnect it. Hang up.